What infuriates me so much about that is that I thought that was a bit of an anticlimax, to be honest.
She's probably the strongest out of the two.
Number 2, Bethany, is paired with number 1, James, who weighs 14 stone.
I'm in it just to rewrite history, cause I'm in the mood to label us the leaders of the new school. This ain't for the radio, can't find this on YouTube. This the type of killing that these critics ain't used to. Victorious.
You ripped into him.
Well, I tried. I've never really fought back or tried to stand up for myself. Hey guys. My hair's doing mad things, I don't know what's going on. So I've just come back from a CrossFit session. It was one of those, if you do CrossFit, that you know when Matt Fraser's like, guess who's blacking out? That was me today. I'm like so dead. I'm really knackered. It was like, what was it, 20 cows assault bike and then 12 power snatches and max burpee pull-ups, and it was 3 rounds of that every 3 minutes, I think. Yeah, something like that, I don't know. You had like, yeah, you had 3 minutes to complete it in, and then you get a minute rest, and then go again and again and again. And it just killed me, I'm dead. So dead. This is gonna be a quick one. It's Monday, so I watched SAS last night. Hopefully I'll remember all of it. This episode was Control, and the first thing that happened was we saw them get woken up in the middle of the night. Now, I want to be clear, that probably happened every single night, because it did with us. Like, we were woken up every night for a bee sting, no matter what. So it's just that you're not seeing it as much, that's all. But in this instance, they got woke up to go and do the backwards dive, and it was in the dark. And honestly, the backwards dive was one of the most exciting things for me. We did it on the, I think it was the first night actually. I'm not sure if I spoke about this in my other videos about SAS, but it reminded me of a moment on my series that you didn't see. So essentially I did the backwards dive twice and that was because we did the dive and then one of the other recruits said, did you enjoy it or something? And I was like, yeah, it was awesome. Unfortunately, Ant only heard me say, yeah, it was awesome. Was very annoyed about that and then dragged me up. I did it right the first time, but he made me do it the second time again, and I did it right the second time. And obviously because I've done co-steering like all my life, so it was something that I hadn't done it before, but I knew that you're supposed to stay tight and like keep your core tight, so you go in directly, like you go in head first straight down. So I knew what I was doing. But yeah, it was just like, he was screaming at me like nose to face sort of thing for ages. And he was like, right, when I say 3, 2, 1, you go straight back. So he was like 3, 2, 1, I just went, and like, did it, obviously. I think maybe because I like just did it and I didn't freak out and I didn't cry or anything, it didn't make good TV, so it didn't end up on TV. But yeah, it just all came flooding back to me when I saw the backwards dive. Jamie, number 14, did really well on the backwards dive. You could see that he definitely like went in head first, and then the mole over rotated on purpose. That must have hurt so bad, because it hurts anyway. Like the weight of the water hitting the top of your shoulders was really quite painful, and the top of your head, it feels almost like concrete. I can imagine that really hurt him, but obviously worth it to keep his cover. Number 7 was the best one. At number 20, Hannah went feet first, and there was a girl on our series that did that as well, and I can imagine it can be quite scary for people that haven't done that sort of thing before. But it is one of those, you've just got to close your eyes and do it, like block out, it's about control, isn't it? Block out the fear, block out anything your brain's thinking, and just think like, I'm gonna do it. Like shut all that off, ignore it completely, like be brave for 10 seconds, that sort of thing, and just go for it. But I can understand that can be quite hard because your body's fighting against you, and if you are really scared of heights, that would be difficult. They brought Hannah in for a little chat, and she was saying about how she is doing it to kind of understand her husband a bit better, who is a Marine, and I thought that sounded really cool actually. I thought it was a really nice thing to do. If your partner's a Marine and you don't really get it, it's one of the only ways you can really show yourself what it's like without going and joining yourself. So yeah, I think that was really admirable of her to be doing it for that reason. After that, they did the jumping across the canyon, and that's not something that we did anything like, but that looked like fun. I could definitely have done that. It's something that I've done similar things to, like the kind of climbing up rocks, and I've done, again, co-steering is like scaling across rock faces, and you do a bit of like deep water soloing in there, so climbing up rocks without a harness and then jumping into water. So yeah, relatively similar, but being that far above the water can be so nerve-wracking, and even a short jump like that can feel like it's huge because it's like your brain is telling you I could die in this scenario. So Alan, number 15, crushed it despite only having one eye. I don't even know how you like figure out the whole depth perception with that, but incredible, like really impressive effort. Number 2 did well, crushed it. And then Jamie again had to go and do it in the rain, and obviously that makes it harder because the rocks are really slippy. I know full well that like a little bit of water on a rock can make it so much more dangerous, but yeah, he did really well on that as well. And then I thought it was really funny when like Ant collared the mole for a bit of a chat and just started like being really matey with him on the side of a rock face and like asking him all the questions about the recruits, and we got a bit of an insight into different recruits and what they thought about them. So it's good to know that 15 is doing well, and Connor, who is the Irish dancer who obviously we saw in the last episode, I think he's becoming like a secret favourite of mine really, just because he had the balls to do the Irish dancing for one. But yeah, really cool, and I can see he could do quite well in this because the fitness levels are quite high, and obviously that's really clear from the mole. He's saying how high the fitness levels are. So then they did this beasting and they had to like crawl through the water, and all I could remember in that moment is how our beastings were, and I just had that phrase ringing through my head, like it pays to be a winner. And honestly, it never pays to be a winner, because if you are a winner then you're made to do more burpees when you get there. So it doesn't pay to be a winner, that's a total lie, but it does pay not to be last. And you could see with number 2, who we saw in the last episode, who was quite scared of heights, and number 14, Jamie, they had a little race. They would like pit you off against each other, which I remember them doing that with some of the recruits in my series, and it can really get you to push, and it's so demoralizing there if you're one of the other people that they're trying to get you to run past. But yeah, that was interesting to see. Ant had a massive go at Jamie because he did really well, and then he didn't do so well in the fitnessy bit, and he was like, oh, you're letting yourself down. And that, I'm just going to remind you again that he says that to everybody, but it's constant, and imagine how much that could get to your head. And I know that's the game that they're playing. They're trying to get into your head and make you feel like you're failing so that you'll go, no, I'm going to keep doing it, I'm going to keep going. But that is so like mentally difficult to deal with, and I think Jamie did really well to continue and push through and kind of block that out, because I know obviously other people find it so difficult. Others have left already because potentially that criticism got to them, but it's just about remembering really that it's a TV show and they're trying to get you to quit, and they're trying to get you, and I guess in the real SAS selection they'll probably try and get you to quit as well because they want to see if you're tough enough. So it's a mental game as well as a physical one, and that seems to be really what Ant tries to do when he screams at you and tells you that you're like worthless and letting yourself down, letting everyone else down. After that, they brought Jamie in for interrogation, and this story really hit home for me personally because it was just so hard to listen to. I just thought it was so brave of him to talk about it. You'll have to watch the episode back to know exactly what he said, because I'm not sure about YouTube's rules on me saying words like those. He obviously went through some really savage stuff that no one should ever have to go through, and he's come out the other side of it, and he stood up in court and he spoke out and reported it. I know that that's going to encourage so many other people to come forward about things that have happened to them that were wrong and should never have happened, and report these crimes to the police. I just believe that anybody that does that deserves to be punished, and he is so brave to have stood up and do that. And I know personally I've got some things in my past that I tried to bury and run away from, so I can relate to him doing that with his thing that he was dealing with, burying it so deeply that you can't even deal with it. So that's so huge that he saw one of his friends from the same football team come out and talk about it, and that helped him. And then honestly, Jamie being on TV talking about his story, I know full well that that's going to help other people build up the courage to come out and report anything that's happened to them, because there's so many people at the end of the day that don't report. I know sometimes people can say, oh, there's sob stories on SAS, but publicising these stories is so important because it helps so many people out there. So I just wanted to say thank you to Jamie, because that is an amazing, brave, incredible thing to do. At the end of the day, he's looking out for other people by reporting it and by talking about it, and it destigmatizes that whole thing of it happening to men. It was a crime, it always should have been reported, and he just did an amazing job by speaking out about it. And I wrote down a quote that he said which really hit home for me. So, being honest with yourself frees you, and I believe that totally. If there's something that we can learn, that is a big one, because there's so many people that are afraid to be honest with themselves and afraid to feel their feelings because they see it as a weakness, and actually it's not. Like, true strength comes from being honest with yourself and being able to own what's happened to you and deal with it, and that's exactly what he's done. So I was really rooting for him after that, and it's just like, it's just amazing. He's incredibly strong for coming out the other side of that and then tackling something like SAS. It's incredible. So number 15, Alan left unexpectedly, like completely out of the blue, and what infuriates me so much about that is that we don't get to see why, because the interviews that you see in SAS, the ones where they're sitting in front of the camera, that is filmed before the show even happens. They don't sit anybody in front of the camera afterwards. I just wanted him to walk out, go and sit in a room and film and talk about exactly why he left, but he didn't say. So we don't know. So, news. I've just watched the little clip of Alan and why he left. I'm gonna put that clip up now.
Episode 3 yesterday was when I VW'd and handed in my badge. Of course, that was a lot of shock to people, as I don't just give in like that. It was nothing to do with the course. It was personal, and this is going to be a shock to a few people. Basically, I was struggling mentally with private stuff within my family. So before I had my, I lost my eye, something even worse happened within my family, which hit me as a man, as a dad, and it broke me, to be fair. So I'm not going to go into that. That's all you need to know. A family crisis happened within my family, and I found it hard to acknowledge and get around and understand why this happened to my family. Why me? Why my family? So, as I'm a strong person, as everyone knows, I hid those feelings for a long time. I kept them suppressed. I was always me, being happy in the gym, looking after everyone else. But that got worse over time because I wasn't looking after myself, and I was deteriorating from the inside out.
So that's totally understandable. Like, if you're mentally in the wrong place at that time and you're thinking about something else, I can totally understand why that would be really difficult for you to deal with. But like, credit to him for still going on the show and still attempting to do it, even though he was struggling with that. And I really hope that he's moving forward from it and that he's found a way to deal with it. And again, I don't know, maybe in some way the show helped him figure out that that's something that he needed to deal with. For me, it definitely did that for me, and I feel like a lot of people with mental health issues and people that struggle are drawn to the show because we know we're tough, we know that we can deal with hard stuff. It's almost a distraction. You're like, I know I can do that because I know I'm really tough, I know I can like shut myself down and just do the task, but actually in a weird way it makes you realise that that's not the answer and you need to start dealing with your stuff. So I totally get it. It would have been nice to see that on the show, to see why he left, and I would have liked to see him go further because he seemed like a really strong character. So after that we got to see the Red Man and we got to see the recruits just absolutely go at it, and there was this montage of them just beating the crap out of him, which is cool. And obviously it was the mole, and the mole like weirdly volunteered. I thought we were going to see the mole come out. It didn't come out in that scenario, it came out a bit later on in the episode. That was so cool to see. I saw a little clip of Justine like dragging him to the floor, and it was just like, yes, it was cool to see some of the other women, but I feel like we need more airtime from the women. I just feel like I just want to hear more from the strong females in the group. But yeah, it was really nice to hear from Hannah. She did really well as well in the red man task. It seemed like she did amazingly. So Jamie did us all proud and just like absolutely let go, and so much aggression, let everything out. And again, I think that's something that we have as a superpower. If you've been through some serious rough stuff in your life, you've got that. And I know Ant and the others have spoken about that on the episodes, that you can take that aggression and channel it, and that's essentially what I did when I did the boxing. When you've got that like built up, you can just lay it into someone, obviously in the right scenario when it is part of a task. But that's clearly what he did, and he did really well. And honestly, I felt that like I really related to that moment where he just like absolutely went for it. It completely mirrored my experience, and I was just so proud of him after hearing his story before, and then just seeing him use everything that he had and go for it. It was amazing, and I'm really chuffed that he did that, and I can't wait to watch the next few episodes with him in. The mole was then revealed. Staz, I thought that was a bit of an anticlimax, to be honest. I feel like in our episode, the whole thing with Ellie with the barrel, he VW'd and Ellie was like, don't do it. And I mean, maybe I'm over dramatizing it because I was there and I was actually experiencing it, and we were all like, no Jay, don't go. And then he ended up walking out later on, and it was just this moment where we were like, oh, that was a moment. But you didn't get that because he was still standing in the queue, and he was like, yeah, so he's the mole. And that was it. Like, we got the moment where Jay walked out in black, and you were like, in fact, I think I have my face at the moment where I'm just like, one of them was saying that he knows everything about you, and I'm just like biting my lip because I remembered that I was ripping the piss out of him the day before because he had a black eye from the fight that we had. I kind of really laboured the point. And yeah, I thought that was gonna come back on me. But I felt like our moment was much more dramatised, and especially for us as well, like we were like shocked, and the recruits in this series didn't look that shocked. He was already in the queue. It was just a bit like, oh, okay. And then at the end of the episode, we got to see next week's preview, and it's boxing. So because we had the red man, it doesn't mean we're not gonna get boxing too. And I think that's really cool, because I did, after watching the red man, I did like it. I thought it was a cool task, but I was also like, does that mean we don't get boxing? I do really like watching, well, it's not the boxing, it's called the milling. I like watching the fights because I feel like you really get to see how the recruits act when they're being punched as well as punching other people. Like, how do you react in a scenario where you're in a fight and they're fighting back, and where you're maybe like mismatched with an opponent, like obviously like I was with an SAS operative. I like to see that, and I like to see people hold their own. I like to see the unexpected people, like the underdogs, like come out and kill it. It's an interesting one for me, so I can't wait for next week. Obviously tune in for that. I'm gonna have quite a unique insight on the whole boxing scenario, because obviously I was one of the only females that fought a man in my series, and the series before that I think there was only one girl that fought a man, if there are any. It's going to be really interesting to talk about, so tune in for that next week. These videos are going up every week just after the show airs, so come back for that. Please do subscribe to the channel, and if you're interested in fitness and health and SAS and anything else along those lines, then please do subscribe to the channel. I do vlogs every Sunday, and you just get to come along with me. And obviously I do CrossFit, so if you hate CrossFit, don't subscribe. But oh, actually, I'm going to tell you a little secret. Most of the girls on most of the series do CrossFit. They just hide it because they know the backlash they're gonna get, but a lot of the girls on the series do CrossFit or do Olympic weightlifting or something very similar. They just are not gonna talk about it. Like, I know a few of them are doing the European Championships qualifier like me, so they are full-on CrossFitters, but a couple of them were like, oh, I wasn't gonna tell them that because they're just so mean about it, because they hate CrossFit, because everyone hates CrossFit. Lame. Like, let us do ours. Like, it gets us fit, it's really fun, and it's so not like aesthetic focused, it's performance focused, and that's why the girls are fit enough to go on the show. So yeah. But anyway, I will see you in the next video, and I hope you enjoyed it, guys. Let me know in the comments below what you thought. See you next time.